When you hunt monsters, do you risk becoming one yourself? The Belmont family legendary vampire hunters have always been hailed as heroes. But what if their unwavering crusade against evil isn't as morally clear-cut as we think? We're diving deep into the Belmont Code, asking whether their sacrifices against darkness have actually cursed them. To unpack this question, we must first anchor ourselves in the legacy of the Belmont clan, a bloodline forged in fire and shadow across centuries of the Castlevania universe. From the mist-shrouded villages of 15th century Wallachia to the futuristic wastelands of distant eras, the Belmonts have stood as humanity's last line of defense against Dracula and his horde of supernatural horrors. Official lore codified in materials like the Castlevania, official Encyclopedia, and developer interviews with Konami's Koji Igarashi positions them as paragons of virtue, descendants of the knight Leon Belmont who swore an oath to destroy evil after his beloved Sara Trantoul was turned into a vampire by Dracula's dark magic. Leon's sacrifice, the abandonment of his noble title, his embrace of a life of exile, established the foundation of the Belmont Code, unyielding opposition to darkness no matter the cost, no matter the toll. But this myth of unassailable heroism cracks when we examine the realities of their crusade. Take Trevor Belmont, the protagonist of Netflix's Castlevania animated series, and the 1989 third, Dracula's Curse. In the animated series, Trevor is introduced as a drunkard, a wanderer cast out by the very people he is sworn to protect. The townsfolk of Gresset fear him not just because of his family's reputation as monster killers, but because his presence brings death, both to vampires and to humans caught in the crossfire. In one pivotal scene, Trevor confronts a group of priests who have been sacrificing innocent villagers to appease Dracula. His response is brutal. He breaks the lead priest's neck without hesitation, leaving the others cowering in fear. To the audience, it is a moment of justice punishment for complicity in evil. But to the villagers, it is a display of the same ruthless violence they associate with the monsters Trevor hunts. "You're no better than the devil you chase," one villager shouts at him. Trevor's silence in response speaks volumes. This tension between heroism and monstrosity is not a modern invention. It is woven into the earliest Castlevania narratives. Simon Belmont, the star of the original 1986 Castlevania game and its 1991 sequel Simon's Quest, embodies this duality. In Simon's Quest, Dracula curses Simon after his defeat, embedding shards of his own bone into Simon's body. To break the curse, Simon must dig up Dracula's remains, his skull, his ribs, his heart, and burn them. The process is grotesque. Simon desecrates graves, hunts down undead guardians of the remains, and endures excruciating pain as the curse eats away at him. By the game's end, he succeeds, but the cost is evident. The manual for Simon's Quest describes him as a man changed, his eyes hardened by the horrors he witnessed, his hands stained with the blood of both evil and the innocent who stood in his way. Simon's Quest is heroic in its purpose, but the method's grave-robbing violence against those who dare protect Dracula's remains blur the line between hunter and hunted. Konami's own developers have acknowledged this moral ambiguity. In a 2003 interview with GamePro, Koji Igarashi, the father of modern Castlevania, stated, "The Belmonts are not perfect heroes. They are driven by a curse as much as a calling. Leon Belmont's oath bound his descendants to a life of suffering. They cannot love freely. They cannot settle down. They must always hunt. And in that hunting, they risk losing their humanity." This curse is not just metaphorical. It is a literal force in the Castlevania universe. In Castlevania, Lords of Shadow 2010, the origin story is reimagined with Gabriel Belmont, a knight of the Brotherhood of Light, who sets out to defeat the Lords of Shadow to resurrect his wife Marie. Along the way, he makes a deal with the devil Mephisto, sacrificing his soul to gain the power to kill the Lords of Shadow. By the game's end, Gabriel succeeds but becomes Dracula himself, the very monster the Belmonts are sworn to destroy. His transformation is the ultimate realization of the question, when you hunt monsters, do you become one? Gabriel's story is not an aberration. It is the dark underbelly of the Belmont legacy, a reminder that their crusade is built on a foundation of sacrifice that can tip into self-destruction. To understand the weight of this legacy, we must also consider the cultural context that shaped the Belmonts. The Castlevania series draws heavily from European folklore, particularly the legend of Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Dracula, and the traditions of vampire hunting. In these folktales, vampire hunters are not always heroes. They are often outcasts, misfits who exist on the fringes of society. They use brutal methods, staking, decapitation, burning, to destroy their prey, methods that mirror the violence of the vampires themselves. The Belmonts inherit this duality. They are celebrated for saving humanity, but feared for the violence they wield. In the Netflix series, this fear is palpable. When Trevor arrives in Gresset, the townsfolk lock their doors, whisper about his family's cursed blood, and refuse to help him. Even Sypha Belnades, a powerful magician and Trevor's ally, initially distrust him, warning that the Belmont's rage is as dangerous as any vampire's fangs. This distrust is not unfounded. The Belmont Code demands a level of commitment that borders on obsession. It requires them to prioritize the destruction of evil over all else, over their own happiness, over the lives of innocent people, over their own humanity. In Castlevania, Curse of Darkness 2005, Hector, a former Devil Forge master who renounces evil, seeks the help of Trevor Belmont to defeat his former ally Isaac. Trevor agrees, but only on the condition that Hector helps him destroy all Isaac's Forge masters, even those who have surrendered. When Hector refuses, arguing that some of the Forge Masters are victims of Isaac's manipulation, Trevor threatens to kill him. "There is no mercy for those who serve darkness," Trevor says. "Not even for those who regret it." This rigid adherence to the code is what makes the Belmonts effective hunters, but it is also what makes them dangerous. It blinds them to nuance, to redemption, to the possibility that evil is not always black and white. As we dive deeper into the Belmont Code, we will explore the burden of their bloodline, the moral ambiguity of their actions, the counterpoint provided by Alucard's nuanced worldview, the ways their code becomes a curse, and the possibility of a new path forward. We will draw on official game lore, animated series episodes, developer interviews, and even philosophical debates about good and evil to answer the question at the heart of this exploration: are the Belmonts heroes, or are they cursed by the very evil they hunt? The answer, as we will discover, is not a simple one. It is a tapestry of sacrifice, violence, redemption, and loss. It is a story of humans struggling to remain human in a world that demands they become monsters. And it is a reminder that the line between hero and villain is often thinner than we think.